So for this purse, it has a zipper pocket in the inside. So I hadn't done this on this purse or this type of purse yet, so I'm adding it to my pattern. And so what I did is from the top, a 1/2 inch down from where my billet would be, is going to be the top of the pocket, and then 1 inch from the edge of the bottom, and then I believe 1 inch on either side. So pretty simple. That way it's not in the way of the bend in the bottom or in the side pieces. So now to mark where the pocket's going to be so we can punch our holes in the main body, I'm just laying the pattern down on the main body and then marking where my corner stitch holes would be. So after I did the perimeter of the pocket on the pattern, I then went and did an 1/8 inch in on each side, and that will be how wide my stitch line will be. And so mark that, and then just making sure everything's going to line up, and then I'm going to mark with a straight edge in between the marks, and that'll be where my stitch line is. So then I'll just have to punch the holes, as you'll see in a minute, punch the holes to match the pocket. So this one, don't use any glue or any non-stick tape, just do it this way. And so far I've done it twice. I did it on my briefcase and then on this purse, and it's worked really well. And So here is a pretty critical step. You'll see me counting my holes quite a few times, and that's because you have to get the same amount of holes down the side of the side panel as down the side of the main body for everything to line up right. And so I go down and keep track, or try to keep track. I have to recount just to make sure the amount of times I strike the chisel. And then when I go to punch the main body, as you'll see, I keep that right close so then I can go back and make sure everything's lining up. But you have to get the same amount of holes so that it's not crooked. Because if you have too many holes on one side, and not enough, it gets crooked, and then your purse, it won't sit flat. It can kind of twist. And so yeah, definitely gotta take my time and make sure I get the same amount of chisel strikes down the side of the panel and then down the side of the main body. And so for the bottom of the side panels and for the bottom of the purse, that is probably the more difficult part to punch, because it's got to fit between the holes we punched down either side. And so you got to be very careful that you get the center. So what I do is I find the center of the purse and I put a mark on the side panel as well as the main body, and then punch from that mark. And so on the side panel, if I have to strike the chisel twice on either side of that mark, then I do the same on the main body. And sometimes it can get kind of close and be difficult to make sure you have the right hole, because sometimes the holes from the side, when it transfers to the bottom, there's not a whole noticeable gap. So like you see here, I'm counting the holes and finding the center, and then counting on the side of the purse and trying to make sure I got it right. So I apologize that my view is off and you can't quite see what I'm doing. Basically, I'm just hanging the stitch line over the edge of the table so it's easier to stitch, because with such a big piece it can be hard to hold. And I'm just stitching the bottom of the side panel onto the bottom of the main body, and we do that first, and then we stitch down the sides. And I always start at the bottom and stitch up towards the top or the mouth of the purse. And then I apologize, I try a number of different views. It's very difficult to stitch something this big and try to get it in the camera, and also it can be a little difficult to get the sides to form in the corners properly. And so I just, the best I could, I tried different camera views and eventually turned it off. But hopefully you get an idea and will help you with your projects. So now I'm attaching the straps to the purse, and I found that this weight of leather, it's 5 to 6 ounce, but for the medium sized double cap rivets, it's just a little too thin. And so I cut out those little circles, little donuts, to make it thicker so that the rivet will set straight. And so I did that on the handles and also on all the snap billet, and then also the billets on the side of the purse, anywhere where there wasn't 3 thicknesses. And also, I didn't show it because it's very tedious, and I find it to be a little bit boring to watch someone burnish the edges, so I didn't show the burnishing of the edges on this purse, but I used Tokonole. It pretty much is the only thing that burnishes the edges of chrome tans. Gumtrag, Leather Balm, and Tokonole will burnish the edges of veg tan, but the only thing that really burnishes the edges of a chrome tan is the Tokonole.